Okay, so I want you to picture a scenario. It's, say, a Tuesday morning. You're wearing an outfit that feels just a little too stiff. Maybe that blazer you usually only pull out for like weddings or funerals. You're sitting in a lobby you've never been in before. The air conditioning is humming. Your palms are sweating just enough to make a handshake feel, well, a little risky.
The universal nightmare, the job interview.
It really is. It doesn't matter who you are or, how experienced you are. That specific flavor of anxiety, that fear of freezing up is just totally universal.
Oh, completely.
But here's the twist. Imagine doing all of that, managing the nerve, the posture, the tell me about yourself, but doing it in a language that isn't your own.
Wow, yeah. That adds a massive layer of cognitive load. I mean, you're not just trying to sell your skills, you're trying to conjugate verbs, remember idioms, worry about your accent.
All while fighting off a panic attack. It's like fighting a dragon while also trying to crack the Enigma code. And that is exactly where our source material for this deep dive comes from. We're looking at a fascinating series from a channel called Daily English Dive.
Hosted by a duo named Sophie and Jack.
Right.
And I think it's important to say right up top, while their advice is, technically for English learners, what they've actually created is a masterclass in interview psychology for everyone.
That's what struck me, because they have to strip everything down to the absolute basics for language clarity. They actually reveal the core mechanics of interviewing better than most career coaches do.
They cut through all the noise.
Yeah.
When you remove the corporate buzzwords and all the fluff, you're just left with the raw mechanics of human connection. And because they're teaching this to people learning English, the advice has to be clear and simple, which honestly is what we all need.
So our mission today is to equip you with what Sophie calls a shield and a sword. I just love that metaphor.
It's a great one.
The shield is the psychological prep, knowing how the interviewer's brain works so you can handle the nerves. And the sword. Well, those are the simple, powerful structures to answer the hardest questions.
And frankly, most people go into interviews with neither. They just kind of go in naked and hope for the best.
Let's try to avoid that. Let's start building the shield. The sources talk about the psychology of the first 30 seconds. Now, usually when I think of an interview, I think of, sitting down and answering questions. But Sophie and Jack argue the game is won or lost way before that.
Much earlier. They bring up a concept called the primacy effect, which is deeply linked to something psychologists call thin slicing.
Thin slicing. That sounds like a cooking technique, or maybe something you do to cut costs.
Hey, yeah. But it's actually pretty judgmental. Thin slicing is the human brain's ability and, its tendency to find patterns and make really strong judgments based on extremely narrow slices of experience.
How narrow are we talking?
We're talking about the first 7 to 30 seconds of an interaction.
7 seconds. I mean, come on. In 7 seconds, I haven't even found a place to put my coffee cup yet. Is it really possible to judge a candidate's competence that fast?
Well, their competence. Maybe not. But their likability, their trustworthiness. Oh, absolutely. By the time you've put down your coffee, the interviewer's subconscious has likely already decided if you seem confident, if you seem, safe.
And if they even want to keep talking to you.
Exactly.
This highlights a huge misconception the sources point out, the timeline error. We all think the interview starts when the interviewer opens their mouth and asks that first question.
Right. But it really starts the moment you walk through the door or, the second your camera turns on for a Zoom call.
So it's the posture, the eye contact, the smile.
Yeah. Before a single word is spoken, you are broadcasting data.
So if you walk in, slumping, looking at the floor, fumbling with your bag, you're basically digging a hole you have to spend the next 30 minutes climbing out of.
Precisely. You're fighting a confirmation bias that you just created. If they decide you're nervous and unprepared in the first 10 seconds, everything you say after that gets filtered through that lens.
And there's another nonverbal cue the sources mention that I think is so often overlooked, especially when we're nervous. Active listening.
Right. Specifically, nodding.
Nodding seems so simple, right? Almost too simple to be a strategy.
But it's so powerful. Watch people when they're nervous. They tend to just go stone-faced, they stare.
Yeah.
Sophie advises just nodding while the interviewer is speaking. It's not just polite, it signals engagement. It builds this subconscious connection that says, I'm with you, I understand. It turns an interrogation into a conversation.
Okay, so we survived the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We smiled, we stood up straight, we nodded, we've established a good thin slice. Now comes the moment everyone dreads. The interviewer leans back and drops the bomb. So tell me about yourself.
The ultimate open-ended trap.
It really is.
Yeah.
And our source hosts, particularly Jack, they talk about falling right into what they call the autobiography trap.
This is so, so common. When someone asks, tell me about yourself, our instinct is to answer literally. We start with where we were born, we talk about hobbies, our pets.
Jack explicitly says he wanted to talk about his 3 cats and his deep love for pizza.
Which is charming, at a dinner party. But in an interview, unless you're applying to be a veterinarian or a pizza chef, it's just noise.
Right. The interviewer has to sift through your whole life story to find the relevant bits.
And the source makes a brilliant distinction here. The question doesn't mean, who are you? It means, tell me about your professional value.
So no cats. Got it. But this is hard, right? You don't want to just recite your resume. That's boring.
It is. And that's why the sources propose this model called present, past, future.
Okay, how does that work?
It's a beautiful, simple framework. It keeps you from rambling. Step 1 is present. Currently, I am. And you state your role and a big recent win.
Okay.
Step 2 is past. In the past, I studied or worked. And you only hit the greatest hits that are relevant to this job.
Not your entire life story.
No. And then step 3 is future. Now I am looking to, which explains why you're sitting in that chair right now.
I love how clean that is. It answers, who are you?
Yeah.
But it also answers the unspoken question, why are you here?
Exactly. It frames your whole history as leading up to this specific moment.
Now, while we're on the topic of how we speak, there's another trap the sources mention, specifically for people trying to sound smart. They call it the vocabulary trap.
Oh, yes. The urge to use ESAT words.
You know the ones. Words like meticulous, synergy, efficacious.
The problem with those words, and this is especially true if English isn't your first language, is that they just increase your cognitive load. You're focusing on the dictionary, not the connection.
And they can sound rehearsed.
Totally. The advice from the source is to use power phrases instead. These are just simple active verbs.
So what's an example of the difference?
Okay, so weak phrasing would be something like, I do things related to marketing, or I'm good with people. It's passive. Strong phrasing uses ownership. I am responsible for marketing strategy, or I led a team of 10.
I am responsible for. That immediately adds weight. It implies you owned the outcome.
Yes. Simplicity isn't about being dumb, it's about being clear. And in a high-pressure environment, clarity is confidence. This is so, so important if you're interviewing in a second language. Keep it simple and you will actually sound smarter.
Okay, let's move on to the next big hurdle in our SWORD toolkit. Motivation. The question, why do you want this job? Now, let's be real. For 99% of people, the honest answer is, I have a mortgage and I enjoy eating food.
True. But as Sophie points out, explicitly stating I need money is an immediate deal breaker.
But why? I mean, everyone knows it's the truth. Why do we have to play this game?
Because companies, just like people, have egos. It connects to the liking principle in psychology. We like people who like us. The company wants to feel special.
So they want to believe you chose them specifically, not just any paycheck.
Exactly. If you say I need a job, you're saying you're a commodity. But if you say I love your mission, you're saying you're special.
But, and this is a big but, you can't just fake it.
No, you can't just say you're a big, great company. That's just vague flattery. It sounds desperate. You need to prove what they call internal motivation through research.
The sources use this specific example here about sustainability.
Right. Don't just say, I like your values. Say, I read about your initiative to use 100% recycled materials by 2025, and that aligns with my experience in sustainable supply chains.
That proves you did the homework. It anchors the flattery in facts.
Precisely.
But here's where it gets really interesting, especially for people who might come from cultures that value modesty. The sources discuss the humble trap.
This resonated with me so much. In many cultures, and, for many personality types, talking about your strengths feels arrogant. It feels like bragging.
It is physically uncomfortable. You feel like you're being a jerk.
It's a huge barrier. But the source has this complete reframe. Hiding your skills doesn't make you humble. It makes the interviewer's job harder. They need to know what you can do.
So if you don't tell them, they can't hire you.
Right. You aren't bragging. You're providing data. You're a fact teller.
I like that, fact teller.
Think about it. If a surgeon didn't tell you they were good at heart surgery because they wanted to be humble, you wouldn't want them operating on you. You need the data.
Okay, so how do we provide that data without sounding like an arrogant jerk? Because there is a fine line. The sources suggest the evidence method.
This is the antidote to vague bragging. The formula is simple. Don't just give an adjective, give an example.
Okay.
If you say, I am organized, that's just a claim. Anyone can say that. It's weak.
Right, it's just noise.
But if you say, I am organized, for example, I manage schedules for 20 people using a digital system I implemented. Well, that's a fact.
It's social proof. You're not asking them to believe you. You're showing them the evidence.
Exactly. And it actually sounds less arrogant because you're talking about the work you did, not just your personality.
The sources also make a distinction here between hard skills and soft skills.
And you need both. Hard skills are the machine parts Excel, Python, driving a forklift. Soft skills are the human parts listening, problem-solving, reliability.
A machine has hard skills. A nice person has soft skills.
Right. And Sophie puts it perfectly. The ideal candidate is the bridge between the two.
I like that. Don't be a robot, but don't just be a nice guy. Be a capable human. Now, we have to talk about the scariest part of the interview, the dark cloud, as Jack calls it.
Mm-hmm.
What is your greatest weakness?
This is where so many people crash and burn.
And usually because they try to outsmart the interviewer with the fake weakness.
Oh, the classic, I work too hard, or I'm a perfectionist.
I admit I have used I'm a perfectionist before. It feels like a safe bet. You're basically saying my flaw is that I'm too good. Why is that bad?
Because interviewers are not stupid. They see right through it. It signals two things. One, you're rehearsed and dishonest. Or two, if you really are a perfectionist, that's actually a liability.
How so?
It means you might be slow, prone to burnout, and difficult to manage. It backfires completely.
So honesty is actually the best policy here.
Yes, because of something called the pratfall effect.
The pratfall effect.
It's a psychological phenomenon. It says that admitting a small flaw actually makes you more likable and more trustworthy. It shows self-awareness.
So if you present yourself as perfect, you seem suspicious. But if you're flawed but working on it, you're human.
And we trust humans.
Okay, but we can't just say, I'm lazy and I steal office supplies. There has to be a strategy to being honest without, destroying your chances.
Definitely don't say that. The sources propose the weakness plus solution formula.
Okay.
First, you identify a safe weakness. This is a real flaw, but one that isn't fatal to the job. So if you're an accountant, don't say you're bad at math.
Right, pick something peripheral.
Exactly. The example they use is public speaking. It's a common fear, and for many jobs, like a coder or a designer, it's not the main task.
Okay, so you identify the weakness. Then what?
Then you follow the formula. 1, identify it. Public speaking makes me nervous. 2, give it context. It happens when I have to present to large groups. And 3, the most important part, action. What are you doing now to fix it?
The action part seems key. It shows a growth mindset.
It's everything. You're not presenting a permanent defect. You're presenting a project in progress. I'm taking a class. I'm practicing with friends. It turns the weakness into a story about self-improvement.
I love that. It takes the sting out of the question entirely. So we've navigated the hard questions. We're engaging. We're humble but evidence-based. We're nearing the finish line. The interviewer asks, why should we hire you?
This is the value proposition. And this is where you need a bridge sentence. You need to explicitly frame yourself as the solution to their problem.
How does a bridge sentence work?
It connects the dots for them. I have the skill to help you goal. So I have the organization skills to help you fix your messy filing system.
Or I have the sales experience to help you reach your new Q4 targets.
Exactly. You're bridging the gap between your resume and their pain points. You're making it easy for them to say yes.
And then comes the final moment. The interview is wrapping up. The interviewer says, do you have any questions for us? And this is where Jack, in our source material, makes the silent mistake.
He says, no, I have no questions.
Which feels polite. You're saving their time. You want to be low maintenance.
It feels polite, but it signals disengagement. It suggests you haven't been thinking critically about the role. You must have questions. But, not just, how much vacation do I get?
Right. The sources offer some golden questions. I'll write these down because they're genuinely good. What does a normal day look like? Can tell me about the team. But my favorite was, what can I achieve in my first month?
That is a power question. Think about the psychology there. By asking that, you are visually placing yourself in the role. You're already imagining working there.
It shifts the mindset from, please pick me, to how can I help you start winning?
Exactly. It shows you're eager to be productive immediately. It changes the dynamic from a candidate to a colleague.
And finally, how do we leave the room? We don't just wave and run away.
No, you need a power ending. Thank them by name, express excitement, and then the proactive close, when should I expect to hear back?
Is that not too pushy? When will you call me?
Not at all. It's professional. It shows you value your own time and you want to know the next steps. It frames you as an equal participant, not a supplicant begging for a favor.
That really sums up the core philosophy of this entire deep dive, doesn't it?
It does. Sophie and Jack reiterate this constantly. An interview isn't a battle. It isn't an interrogation or an exam where you pass or fail.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation between two people trying to solve a problem. They have a problem, an empty chair, work that needs doing, and you have the solution. Your skills, your attitude.
If you walk in with that mindset, the fear just starts to dissipate.
You're not fighting a dragon, you're just meeting a potential partner. And this is especially helpful if you're interviewing in English as a second language. The pressure to have perfect grammar goes down, and your ability to connect goes up.
So to recap the arsenal we've built today, we've given you the shield, the psychological understanding of thin slicing and the pratfall effect, and we've given you the sword, the present, past, future model, the evidence method, and the weakness plus solution formula.
It's a complete toolkit, but it only works if you use it.
Which leads me to a challenge for you. I want you to do something right now, or at least as soon as this is over. We talked about the safe weakness and the action step. So ask yourself, if I asked you to name a professional flaw right now, could you immediately follow it up with the specific, concrete action you are taking this week to fix it?
That's the key. Not, I'll fix it someday, but I am fixing it now. If you can answer that, you are ready for anything.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Go out there, straighten your posture, get that first 30 seconds right, and nail that interview.
You've got this.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.